I want to say I'm glad to find that Joanne Levesque and I have an area of agreement rather than just disagreement, and that is the importance that your organization vet a lot of information that has been said today and at other times, and form your own independent take on, for example, research and what has been said and what will be said. I'd like to thank Neil for clarifying that it is all about infrasound. I'd like to thank Kathy Starr for a vivid description of her experience in Fairhaven. And I'd like to thank Linda Okagawa for a lot of delineation of the kinds of measurements that should be taken, for example, inside and outside a home. I think there are questions about who's responsible for what in that context. For example, homes can be built to resonate or not to resonate, or if you have surfaces that reflect sound very strongly inside a house, you're more likely to have a lot of resonation than if you have absorbing materials. So you quickly get into complication, but I appreciated her comments on that. And I would also like to comment that she lost her case before the zoning board about flicker. I happen to disagree with the zoning board. I thought that there was a reasonable case for abatement of the flicker, and that it was a problem, but I didn't have a vote. So I think the message from that for me is that it's very important that zoning boards have objective criteria, that they go, if this is going to be an issue, that they learn the science or the regulations or some sort of standards and apply them rather than putting their finger up in the wind and sort of going by their own personal impressions. I also thought that the notion of monitoring for, let's say, a year after installation of turbine was a reasonable idea. The actual performance is important for wind turbines just as it is for buildings, although oftentimes in buildings you don't have monitoring. I enjoy the opportunity to disagree with my colleague and friend Dick Kaler. I think it's an excursion into la-la land to say that any standards or regulations could be established that would lead to a smooth path afterwards, and I can give you specific examples, two of them. One is, the issue before wind tag in part is the 10 decibel limit reasonable for wind turbines. And there's an example in Falmouth, the Notice wind turbine, that worked out with the zoning board and abutters a 6 decibel limit. And that's feasible because, well, the sound consultant did the numbers and came to the conclusion that it was acceptable, that they could live with that and stay within the boundaries. Chris Senny, the lawyer for the abutters, actually, when he agreed to it, I guess that's a simple way of saying it. I thought he could have gone for a lower limit, but I've been corrected by people who know the zoning board members better than I do. And since then, there's a procedure that's part of the contract, and there is a special contract that was written by the lawyers. There's a procedure where the neighbors to the turbine can say, hey, I think that the turbine is now giving off too much sound, and it triggers a measurement procedure which is paid for by the owner of the turbine. And that they went through that process, and the turbine was okay. That did not stop a litigation case by another neighbor, which was thrown out of court, or the decision went in favor of the turbine. And now that same neighbor has recently put another complaint before the zoning board, and it's not difficult to imagine where that's going if the zoning board doesn't support that. I would be confident that will go to court. So having even a specially written agreement is not enough in this case to eliminate complaints. The other example is Bog Wind, which was in Wareham, I believe it was. And during the negotiation with the zoning board there, the dB that was allowed kept going down and down, and the number of turbines kept going down and down. And it happens that the leader of the people who were disagreeing with having a turbine there is also an MIT alum. So he and I had a little conversation, and after it started getting down to 3 dB and 2 dB, and I said, well, I'm surprised you stopped there. Why didn't you go for 0 dB? And in fact, the next meeting of the zoning board, they did go for 0 dB, and that is now in litigation, where the developer sued the zoning board for various. I'm not familiar with the case. I just know he sued the zoning board and was confident he had a basis for a suit. I would add that the case that went before Judge Muse in the court in Barnstable has been a PR bonanza for those who are opposed to wind turbines, and we who are supporters of wind turbines understand that, and we're not at all concerned about that decision. I mean, it's a nuisance to have the turbine shut down 50% of the time because of a court injunction, but the basis for it, I think there are a lot of us who are not concerned about that. It's going to resolve itself in the courts. That's what the process is about. Sometimes it goes in an inappropriate direction, and there were some special things that happened in the courtroom, and it's going to go in the opposite direction. I'm quite confident over time. And in terms of, just tell me if you'd like me to cut off. This is my last ad hoc comment. There was a health impact study done by Harvard School of Public Health, and the impacts from fossil fuels are hundreds of deaths per year. And number of deaths for wind turbines is 0. So this kind of thing happened in relation to the Audubon Society also when Cape Wind, the people who were opposing implementation of Cape Wind said, oh, there's a terrible bird kill-off problem. And I was present at an Audubon Society presentation about this issue after they had resolved it within their organization. And one of the facts that came out that they presented was that strip mining, mountaintop removal coal mining, killed 1 billion birds. So you're talking about a comparison that is absurd on the face of it. So I would drop I think we've been around for long enough, and I'll drop my prepared remarks. I can always send them in and I'll leave it there.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.